Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Previously, Ryunosuke finally went and said it, declared it even. He leveled an accusation against Mael Stronghart, the Lord Chief Justice of Britain, of being the Reaper, the enigmatic figure indirectly responsible for countless deaths. And, well, one thing led to another, and thanks to a well-timed speech from Herlock Sholmes, the entire crowd just wouldn't let Mael Stronghart run away from this. So now, we're cross-examining someone from 10 years ago, none other than, Yujin Mikotoba, Susato's father. And also, Mary Gori is there? So that's interesting. Well, without further ado, let's get to it. So, witness, please state your name and occupation for the court. Yujin Mikotoba, lecturer in forensic medicine at the Imperial Yume University in Tokyo, Japan. And Professor Mikotoba, the young lady beside you is... this is Dr. Maria Gori, Scotland Yard's practicing coroner, the daughter of Dr. Seath, I understand. Yes, Dr. Seath. I'm afraid I can't tell you why she's here. She just appeared. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Why is she here?
You summoned this strange Japanese man as a witness to that autopsy, but you don't summon Mama. That makes no sense. She was there too.
That's about the size of it. I've had her eyes bored into the side of my cheek constantly, whilst I was in the antechamber too.
Poor man. The idea of it's making me shudder.
The revelations about Dr. Seath that came to light some days ago defiled the reputation of the entire judiciary. She was therefore deemed unfit to appear as a witness in today's proceedings. The Ministry of Justice's decision on that is final.
Well, we wouldn't want any more perjury to be committed, would we? The Ministry of Justice. Some questionable strings are being pulled, I think.
I remember you, Dr. Mikotoba, but I certainly never expected to be meeting you under these circumstances.
Yes, it's been a long while, Lord Stronghart. The prosecution understands that you were a visiting student of forensic science in London until 10 years ago.
That's right. I studied under Dr. Wilson at St. Sinners.
So you were present at the autopsy of my brother, Lord Clint Van Zeeks.
I was, yes. I assisted Dr. Wilson with the entire procedure.
Mama is far more skilled than any Japanese man.
Well, Dr. Wilson asked me to be his primary assistant on that occasion.
And this autopsy report was actually penned by you, I believe.
Yes, I noted all of the doctor's findings, and when we were done, he read through that document and signed it.
Poor Mama. As secondary assistant, she wouldn't have had such a good view of all the innards.
So, Professor, do you remember Inspector Gregson? Yes, of course. If it wasn't for his insistence, Lord Van Zeeks' autopsy would never have happened. But he was absolutely convinced that it would reveal decisive evidence against Genshin, you see. So Lord Stronghart had to entreat the nobility to allow it to take place. Do correct me if I'm wrong, my lord. It was as a result of that autopsy that a mass murderer was apprehended and justice was done.
But Gregson admitted it before he was killed. He admitted that the results of the autopsy were fabricated. You were there at the time, so you must testify. You have an obligation to tell the truth about what really went on.
Absolutely. That's precisely why I'm here.
And that's why I'm here too.
Very well then. You will give your formal testimony now, witness. But before you begin, a word of warning. Oh? You will state truthfully and accurately what you saw and what you heard at the time. I wouldn't dream of doing otherwise, my lord. The moment your testimony verges on supposition, I will expel you from my courtroom. Remember that. Here we go. From my own observations, I couldn't say there was any indication of the autopsy results having been fabricated. Death resulted from a wound made by a Western-style sword, transfixing the heart. That I found a little strange.
There were no other signs of internal injury, nothing questionable at all. It was just that beautiful but dangerous piece of evidence removed from the man's stomach.
Huh? What was it? Presumed to have been swallowed by the victim as a way of posthumously identifying his assailant. Yeah, I heard it was his stomach before, didn't I? Someone was found in it? No indication. Nothing to suggest fabrication? Professor Mikotoba, are you certain about that? Well, nothing that I could positively identify as such, much less swear to in testimony. Ah. Well, that clears things up nicely. The only fabrication here, Asogi, has come from you.
What?
You claim the inspector confessed just before his death, but that is the fabrication. No, he freely acknowledged it. I swear he did. Freely, with the tip of a sword at his throat. The man was clearly at his wit's end. The court will give no credence to this confession that was uttered in obvious desperation. Quite simply, there was nothing questionable about the investigation of Lord Clint Van Zeek's death. And with this testimony we have, without question, uncovered the whole truth of the matter. Defense has got a right to cross-examine. If I may, my lord. There was most certainly something questionable about it, and the whole truth does rather elude us, I feel. I beg your pardon? Well, you're obviously aware of the facts of the case. All four of the professor's previous victims died when an enormous beast was set upon them that ripped out their throats.
Oh, that is different from a sword to the heart. Oh, such horrifying crimes.
But curiously, the killer's last victim, Lord Clint Van Zeeks, suffered a different fate.
Yes, you're right. He was stabbed through the heart with a sword.
That's enough. I believe I've warned you about this, witness. I promise to curtail your testimony as soon as it entered the realms of supposition or speculation.
Very well, my lord. In that case, the defense will pursue a conclusion to this during the cross-examination.
What?
I have the right to cross-examine every witness after testimony. And I fully intend to exercise that right.
Ryunosuke.
I'm afraid that even the presiding judge has no authority to contravene the letter of the law, as I'm sure every member of the judiciary present in the gallery would agree.
Very well. You may begin, counsel. However, the moment your argument strays from the established facts, I will not hesitate to bring the cross-examination to an end. Proceed with caution.
Yes, my lord.
Hope that means we're not in sudden death here. Oh, good, my health restored. Nice. Oh. Okay. Oh boy. From my own observations, I couldn't say there was any indication of the autopsy results having been fabricated.
Hold it! You couldn't say.
No, sadly not. But then you couldn't say there wasn't any indication either, could you? No, true, I couldn't. I was at Dr. Wilson's side as he performed the procedure, recording what he did. But at times, of course, he instructed me to fetch implements and such like. Whilst I was away from the operating table, obviously I could have missed something. And at those times, what was the secondary assistant doing?
Following this Japanese man's orders to adjust the lighting or pass him implements. But that doesn't mean Mama wasn't a vital part of the team.
Quite, yes. So would you kindly refrain from staring at my cheek like that? I don't know, it looks like she's staring at your hat. It is a cool hat. Professor Mikotoba, think. Was there nothing at all that seemed out of place to you? Well, yes, there was, as a matter of fact. Death resulted from a wound made by a Western-style sword, transfixing the heart. That I found a little strange.
Hold it!
In all of the previous 4 killings attributed to the professor, the victims were killed by an enormous dog, I believe. Their throats were, well, mauled. Correct. And yet Lord Van Zieks was stabbed. Do you mean to say... You think Lord Clint Van Zieks may not in fact have been one of the professor's victims? There is no basis on which to doubt the findings of the investigations carried out at the time. But Genshin Asoki confessed to all of his crimes upon his arrest. He admitted to having taken the lives of all 5 members of the aristocracy. Yet the beast that was used to carry out the killings was never identified. Well, it's been at least a minimum of 10 years since then. The dog's probably dead by now. No evidence was found to suggest that Genshin had ever kept a dog. A true hound of hell.
There were no other signs of internal injury. Nothing questionable at all. Hold it!
But, you weren't actually present at the autopsy yourself, were you, Dr. Gory?
Does that matter?
Well, I just wonder how useful your testimony can be in that case, really. I mean, it would be different if your mother, Dr. Seath, were in the stand, but...
I've read all the paperwork about the case, and Mama's told me the story countless times. That statement I just made is exactly what's written in the autopsy report.
I did confirm that myself at the time, it's true. Besides the stab wound, there were no other signs of internal trauma. I see.
Mama told me all about it.
Oh?
She said there was nothing of note internally. But they did find an amazing piece of evidence, something unbelievable.
Unbelievable? What do you mean? Come on, Dr. Gory, what was it?
It was just that beautiful but dangerous piece of evidence removed from the man's stomach. Hold it!
What exactly was it, though? What does beautiful but dangerous mean?
Well, it was sparkly and round, with a hole, as if it might slip over a finger, perhaps.
A ring? It was a ring belonging to Genshin Asogi. My father's ring was inside the victim's stomach. At the time, Genshin wore a large ring on the digitus quartus of his left hand, the fourth or ring finger.
A wedding band?
I'd understood it was some sort of keepsake. When my father left Japan for London 16 years ago, I was 8 years old. But I remember that ring.
You do?
My father's possessions were sent to our family home in Japan after his death, but the ring wasn't among them. Obviously not. It was a key piece of evidence. It remains under lock and key in the stores at Scotland Yard to this day. After the autopsy, Genshin was summoned by the police to check for the presence of his ring. It wasn't on his hand, of course. Moreover, there were deep abrasions on his finger, where it had been pulled off.
So that was the smoking gun, as it were.
They arrested the man there and then, right before my eyes.
How could they? I brought the ring along with me today.
What? Oh. Wow, that doesn't look Japanese at all. Well, then again, what do I know?
Here it is, a bit dusty from years in the stores.
Good gracious, yes, that's it. I haven't seen that in 10 long years.
And that was found inside the victim's stomach.
Yes, I'm afraid so.
You hesitated there, Professor Mikotoba. Should we read something into that?
Well, it's just that thinking back now. I didn't actually witness the moment it was extracted from the victim's body.
Oh my, really?
At that precise moment, Dr. Wilson had asked me to fetch him a new scalpel, you see. Dr. Gory, the removal of historic evidence from the stores requires my consent, does it not?
However it came to be here, the court cannot deny that this is crucial evidence for today's proceedings.
Very well, you may submit it.
Aha! The claws clasping the gem look sharp enough to cause a very nasty scratch. Huh. It's not the sort of ring normally seen in Japan. They almost look like claws protecting that jewel. We must examine it very carefully, Mr. Naruhodo. Very carefully indeed.
My thoughts exactly. Hold on, Venseeks. It's fine. Let's see. It almost looks like it's just begging to be peeled apart and have the gem removed.
These fat claws are doing a good job of protecting the equally fat gemstone in the middle of this ring. Yes, if you were clumsy, you could give yourself a rather nasty cut on them, I should think. Ow! Now my finger's bleeding. The claws are really sharp. Oh my, that was very quick clumsiness, Mr. Naruhodo, even for you. Ugh, who would make such a dangerous ring? You couldn't swallow it without doing yourself some fairly serious damage, surely. A sticky mochi bun of about that size would go down much better, with some red bean paste in the middle. Someone as clumsy as me would probably manage to choke on it somehow. Yeah, so this inflicted no damage to the esophagus? Or the rest of the stomach? If just handling it with your fingers could get you cut, then surely swallowing it would... Presumed to have been swallowed by the victim as a way of posthumously identifying his assailant.
Hold it!
And that was the decisive piece of evidence that led to Genshin Asogi's arrest? Correct.
After further investigations by Scotland Yard, the man admitted to his crimes. That's a lie. My father was no killer. Barak von Zeeks, it was you. You twisted the truth to suit your purposes. Your hatred of me doesn't change the facts that were established 10 years ago. My brother Clint had closed in on the professor. In the end, he exposed the man and put a stop to his lethal rampage. In the way only a man of my brother's caliber could. That's everything, is it?
Poor father. He looks so troubled.
Perhaps because 10 years ago, something happened that's been weighing on his mind.
Oh.
I couldn't say were his words. That phrasing was very deliberate, I'm sure.
I wonder if he's had his suspicions all these years.
If that's the case, we need to use this cross-examination to prove what really happened, and remove any trace of doubt.
If we could establish that Kazuma-sama's claim of fabricated evidence was true...
We can't shy away from this now, even if what we might uncover could lead to total calamity.
Don't worry, Mr. Naruhodo. I'll be right beside you, whatever may happen.
Right, so this is definitely where my eyebrows raise. No other signs of internal injury. Nothing questionable at all. That is a very, very, certain statement with no wiggle room allowed. So I gotta ask a question about that. This ring really didn't damage the throat at all?
Objection!
Oh, good. The court has heard that the ring was extracted from the victim's stomach. But you didn't actually see it being removed, did you, Professor Mikotoba? That's right. As I said in my testimony before. At that moment, I was fetching a replacement scalpel that Dr. Wilson had requested. In other words, you can neither confirm nor deny whether this ring in fact really came from the victim's stomach or not. What are you suggesting, counsel? That the ring was never in the victim's stomach to begin with. It's entirely feasible that Dr. Wilson fabricated that detail about the autopsy. What are you saying? But Dr. Wilson... That Dr. Wilson was in possession of the ring in advance, after it was somehow stolen from Mr. Asogi. And he produced it during the procedure, pretending to have found it there and then in the victim's stomach.
Objection!
Supposition at best. What possible evidence do you have to support such a rash claim? This evidence, right here. That's the autopsy report. It's explicit in that report, counsel. Other than the ring, nothing unusual was noted internally, so I'm not sure how you intend to prove your point. You've already done it for me, my lord. The lack of internal injury says it all. What? To swallow a ring of this size would require considerable effort and determination. And in addition to its size, there are the sharp claws around the gemstone to contend with. My brother was a determined man, and on the brink of death even more so, I'm sure. He would have stopped at nothing to ensure that evil killer was brought to justice. But if he really had swallowed that enormous ring, it's inconceivable that no traces of its passage down his throat would have remained as internal trauma. No. And there you've arrived at the sticking point. That's precisely why I had my doubts about the findings myself 10 years ago. Then why didn't you say something at the time? I did. I still remember the conversation I had with Dr. Wilson in the laboratory that day. Did I ever make a voice for Wilson? I don't think I ever did. I don't think he had any speaking roles until now. Huh. I don't even remember what he looks like. Look at this. Now this is a very curious thing to find in a man's stomach, wouldn't you say? But isn't that rather peculiar, Dr. Wilson? What's that now, Mikotoba? Well, if he swallowed a ring of that size, with those sharp metal claws that it has, surely you'd expect to see damage to the throat and esophagus, torn mucous membranes at the very least. Dr. Mikotoba, may I remind you that I have vastly more experience than you. I'm terribly sorry. I can think of plenty of ways to explain why no injuries could be seen. No, let's say this. The victim would appear to have ingested the item as evidence to identify his assailant. Go ahead, write it down. So I was right. Dr. Wilson deliberately fabricated the results of the autopsy to implicate my father. I'm disappointed, Counsel. That argument is nothing more than speculation. What? Dr. Wilson was Britain's leading authority on forensic science and autopsy work. There is no scientific basis on which to doubt the man's expert opinion. Pardon the interruption, my lord, but damage to the mucous membranes of the throat is easily identified even in living subjects.
Using a device called an endoscope, recently demonstrated in practical use in France. I want one. The government can pay.
I don't think so. And Dr. Gory, rest assured that your removal of evidence from the stores without permission will not go unpunished.
We open up the dead to find the truth.
I beg your pardon?
But Mama, she chose to stitch her corpses up with all her secrets inside. That's wrong.
Dr. Gory, it's looking as though she's chosen to walk a different path to her mama. Yes, the ring. What about the ring? I've just remembered something. An earlier incident. What incident? The one I recounted to you before, about a memory I have. Of Genshin Asogi saving my life. What? My father saved your life? It was 10 years ago on a foggy night. Genshin and I were walking down some back streets at a late hour. All of a sudden... Don't make a peep, you're coming with us. All of our assailants were armed with pistols, their faces obscured by scars. The next thing I knew, there was silence all around. Genshin lay on the cobbled street. Blood was seeping from his left hand. He'd shielded me. It was on the ring finger of his left hand that he used to wear that ring. Oh, are you saying... I've always believed those thugs were after me. But now I'm starting to question if perhaps I wasn't the intended target after all. Wait, but... Genshin was arrested 2 days after that attack. And in that short interval, the decisive evidence needed to indict him was miraculously found. You mean the ring was stolen from him? You think that's what those thugs were after that night? Whoa.
Objection!
Also, before we go any further, I just want to say, I'm proud of Maria Gori. She's acting like the best. You pathetic coward. You expect me to believe that you weren't involved? What do you mean by that? It was you, wasn't it? You're the one who took it. You stole my father's ring. You set the whole thing up so you could paint him as a mass murderer. And... Kazuma, open your eyes. Ryunosuke? You must know deep down. The truth can be completely obscured even when your judgment is only slightly clouded. But at the moment, you seem to be floundering through a dense fog. Is that why you were so insistent I should be present in this trial? To see you like this? Ooh. Damn. Well, this is an amusing spectacle. What a grandiose expression on your face, as if you were Lady Justice herself. It seems you've thoroughly convinced yourself of this alleged fabrication of the autopsy results. So much so that you're apparently blind to the blatant contradiction that would be born out of it.
What?
Though it's extremely hard to believe, let us imagine that there was some misconduct during the autopsy. If that were the case, why would Asogi not have disputed the findings in his trial?
Oh.
In the closed court hearing 10 years ago, the defendant never once denied the claims against him. Isn't that right, Lord Van Zieks?
Well, if he was being coerced into it, I could believe it. Yes, that is indeed correct. Upon hearing the verdict of guilty, he merely closed his eyes, quietly accepting the judgment. The actions of a man who has accepted responsibility for his deeds and is resigned to his fate. But then... Oh my, that is very strange. If Mr. Asogi did nothing to oppose the charges against him, then that would surely mean there was no fabricated evidence.
An obvious conclusion at which you should have arrived many minutes ago, Prosecutor Asogi. Your twisted loyalty and clouded judgment are hampering your ability for logical thought. Ah! Genshin Asogi's silence at his hearing can mean only one thing. There was no fabrication of evidence during the autopsy of his final victim 10 years ago. Ah!
But if that autopsy was all above board, there will be nothing to stop Lord Strongheart bringing this trial to an immediate conclusion.
Objection!
Ooh. Thank you, Ryunosuke. If it wasn't for your frank words just now, this trial may very well have ended prematurely. Kazuma?
What's this latest absurdity, Counsel?
My lord, your reasoning is perfectly sound, but for one giant hole.
I beg your pardon.
You claim my father's silence was due to the fact that there was no fabricated evidence. There's another possible explanation. You've overlooked the possibility that he had a reason for maintaining that silence.
Objection!
Silence that would lead to him being convicted and sent to his death. If the autopsy results were an invention, there's no conceivable reason why an invention. There's no conceivable reason why the man wouldn't have protested.
Objection!
Oh, those results were an invention, all right. There's no question of that. Or are you forgetting that 2 people with a connection to that autopsy have been assassinated?
If I force the grievances I feel from my mind, I start to see you in a very different light. I think perhaps it's you who's been living in delusion these 10 years. Me?
Kazuma-sama has created one last chance for us here, Mr. Naruhodo. If we can only show there was a reason for his father's silence in this trial.
A reason why the man would have said nothing even though he was innocent. Could it have been part of some negotiation, perhaps? Enough rhetoric! This court must be shown evidence. What proof do you have that could possibly explain Asogi's silence in court? Okay, so the Asogi papers... I, Genshin Asogi, hereby request that upon my death, any and all material possessions and wealth belonging to me in London be delivered to my son, Kazuma Asogi, in the Empire of Japan. Deep sadness that I accept my fate in this foreign land, and the knowledge that I will never see my homeland or family again. But I regret nothing about my chosen path. Deep sadness, no regrets. Apparently Mr. Asogi described it as the only weapon I have left. And, the professor's autopsy, which would be, not that one. Do we have Genshin's autopsy here? We have, Gregson's and Clint's. I'm gonna go with my gut. Yeah, on the subject of guts and all that.
Take that!
This is the defense's answer to that question. As I indicated before, my patience for rhetoric is growing thin. You could have at least accompanied that penalty with an explanation of why that answer was wrong.
If Kazuma-sama's father knew that the evidence being used to convict him was fabricated, why would he have said nothing in his trial?
If it were me, I'd have protested my innocence until I was blue in the face.
So if we're right about the autopsy results, there must have been a strong reason for his silence.
Well then, perhaps, he was saying nothing in exchange for some sort of clemency.
Ah, that could be it.
My lord, the defense would like to... Enough rhetoric! The court must be shown evidence. What proof do you have that could possibly explain Asogi's silence in court? Okay... Oh boy. Something related to 10 years ago. I'm hoping it'll just jump out at me. So it's not the Asogi papers. Superficial external wounds indicative of a duel. Recent scarlet ink stains visible on the little and ring fingers. That's so weird. So this was on Clint. That's what I was thinking of. This is a stretch, but Genshin saved Clint's life. Could he have still been keeping silence in that court to keep protecting him? Something to do with the duel? And the ink stains? Something about this? Wait, there's a third page. Hold on. Yeah, that's what we know already. Or it could be the time to tug on the ears again, but no, I don't think so. Okay, not 10 years, no. Well, maybe. Could he have been doing it to protect Mr. Vigil? No, all that business only happened after he was sentenced. I don't think he even met Mr. Vigil by that time. Yeah, I really don't think there's anything else, but let's give it a shot. That Clint's autopsy report, something about the duel, and the ink on the fingers.
Take that!
Oh no! Okay. Okay. Ooh. I'm feeling pretty dumb. It's not the Asogi papers, and it's not Clint's autopsy. Could he have been protecting his son because his son's on this? But surely... Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe he was protecting his son because he knew that the government targeted his son if he did.
Take that!
Yeah, that was a stretch. Okay. I feel like such an idiot. What the hell? Huh? Alright, yeah, I have steam coming out of my ears. I'm just gonna look it up. Wow, I am well and truly stumped. Dismissal notice. Oh, this? Something for Vigil? Was it because he knew he'd escape? Is that it? Oh, jailbreak plot was conceived prior to the convict's incarceration. He already had plans to escape.
Take that!
It's true that Genshin Asoki's silence during his trial resulted in his conviction. Conviction, not conviction. You know what I mean. But that didn't actually lead to his execution. On the contrary, it led to his escape. An escape that was only possible because he'd been sentenced to death. Although I find it hard to believe my father would have negotiated in that way, the defense is correct. A fake execution, falsification of a death certificate, and a jailbreak inside a coffin. Clearly such an elaborate plan couldn't have been carried out by my father alone. He must have had the help of a collaborator from the judiciary. I have here the dismissal notice of the chief warder who was working in the prison at the time. The notes read, there are indications that the jailbreak was in planning prior to the inmate's incarceration. In other words, there were suggestions of some sort of negotiation between Mr. Asogi and the British government. In exchange for his silence in court, he was given an assurance that he would be broken out of prison. Yes, with that sort of clandestine agreement in place, I can imagine he would have kept very quiet. I would go further than that, in fact. I would say that the elaborate jailbreak of Mr. Asogi can be explained in no other way. Order! Order! First fabricated evidence and now a jailbreak conspiracy. Of course, because it's all intimately linked. The prosecution wishes to summon new witnesses to the stand. Witnesses? People who can testify about the jailbreak that took place 10 years ago.
Ah! Governor Caden and the poor chief warder of the prison.
I won't allow this trial to turn into a farce, to summon the governor of the prison after all these years. Oh, it wouldn't be any trouble, my lord. No way. What?
Father?
My dear friend may appear a little rattle-pated at times, but I can assure you he is extremely thorough. He wired both Barclay and the local prison earlier, asking Governor Caden and Mr. Vigil to attend the Old Bailey as a matter of extreme urgency.
Mr. Sholmes did that?
Are you telling me that? Both men are, unless I'm much mistaken, waiting just outside the courtroom at this very moment. My lord, you must permit this trial to proceed as you declared at its outset. You promised that we would stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. Got him there. Very well, bring in the witnesses. Make no mistake, I too would like nothing more than to lay this business to rest once and for all.
Well, that's neat.
Would the new witnesses state their names and occupations to the court, please? I, Barry Caden, Governor of Barclay Prison.
Everyone calls me Gossip. I saw jaunty little tidbits. Your other persona, if you don't mind. Oh, I do beg your pardon. Of course. My name is Daily Vigil. I used to be the chief warder at Barclay Prison.
The reason you've been summoned here to court today is to testify about the jailbreak of the so-called Professor 10 years ago. Losh, the Professor! We've already been through all that afore, a decade ago. The conclusion was that there wasn't anything untoward happened.
A convict escaped from your prison, Governor. Hardly what you'd call nothing untoward.
Well...
The convict's death certificate was somehow falsified after he was allegedly executed. And he escaped the prison inside his own coffin. A plan of that complexity could never have been carried out without the help of somebody of influence inside the prison.
Governor Caden, don't imagine that the passage of time will afford you any protection. If it turns out that you are involved in the plot to break Mr. Sogi out of your prison, then of course, the consequences will be very serious. In all likelihood, a capital punishment. Gads! Hold on there, laddie. Witness, Governor Caden. Aye, sir. You have a critical role to play in the public safety of our country, a great responsibility to shoulder. The significance of your testimony in court cannot be understated. Therefore, think carefully before you speak. And Prosecutor Asogi, if you threaten the witness again, you'll be held in contempt of court.
My apologies, my lord. There's no disputing the fact that an intricate jailbreak plot was enacted 10 years ago. Clearly, you were both involved in some way. So you will testify before the court now and explain exactly what took place.
Very well. Let the witnesses give their formal testimony. Tell the court everything you know of the plot to break Asogi out of Barclay 10 years ago.
I'm glad it's come to this. I was wondering.
It was the day that Japanese jock was found guilty. The directive came from the prosecutor's office. I assigned the convict to the chief warder vigil here and put the plan into action behind the scenes.
I was responsible for Asogi right up until the night of his execution, but I knew nothing of any plot.
I didn't ken if there were some negotiations between the convict and the prosecutor's office. All I did was carry out my duty for Her Majesty's Great British Empire.
A directive from the prosecutor's office? Are you saying that was the jailbreak plot?
Aye, that's right.
Who sent it? Who authorized that plan?
I didn't ken that.
You're saying you don't know?
Listen, there wasn't a thing about that professor case that was unusual in some way. I didn't ask any questions. I just did what I was told to do. More than that, I couldn't tell you.
I see. But if the jailbreak plan originated from the prosecutor's office, then one thing is very clear. As suspected, there were clandestine dealings going on between Mr. Asogi and that office. The jailbreak was promised in exchange for Mr. Asogi admitting to crimes he didn't commit. Wasn't Stronhard a prosecutor in the past?
That, counsel, is nothing more than speculation on your part. So, let me ask the defense.
Oh, yes, my lord?
I fail to see how these witnesses have any more pertinent information here. Do you intend to assert your right to cross-examination?
Absolutely. I have no intention of squandering a single opportunity, my lord.
It seems all you Japanese are fiercely tenacious. Very well. Proceed, counsel.
And I will in 24 hours, or like 23, really. So, sucks that we took 3 hits, but hey, the closer I am to the wire, the more thrilling it is, right? Right? Yeah, let's go with that. Okay, so I'm glad Kazuma seems to have woken up. His eyes are no longer clouded by hate. Oh boy, so I have to wonder what the hell is with the ink stains on Clint's hands from the autopsy, and who was he dueling before being stabbed by a Western-style sword?
It's hard to say, but... yeah, if hired goons were sent after Genshin and Barak Van Zieks, even before all that trouble began, this has been a scheme long in the making. Damn. Someone saw an opportunity for immense personal gain. But who and how? I mean, we know that Gregson profited massively. He rose to stardom for capturing the professor. But I don't think it was him. No, I think that was just a side effect of everything. God, I swear Strongheart once said he was a prosecutor 10 years ago, before he was Lord Chief Justice. I swear he said it at one point. All signs really are pointing to him being the big bad. But let's be real, I knew it from the start, from before I even saw him even. It was the office. Only boss fights live in offices like those. So man, what do you say? Do we have like 2 videos left? 3? Maybe 3. Or 4. Oh, it could be 5? No, probably not 5. 5 seems a bit weird. 3 or 4. 3 or 4. Ooh. Oh, we're so close. Oh, I can't wait to see the full mystery unfold. But yeah. Just, Herlock Sholmes, I could kiss you. Having Caden and Vigil right here already. He really is smarter than he let on. That wild rascal. Oh, well. I'm Zephyr the Jester. This has been more of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll catch you next time when we cross-examine these 2 lovely gentlemen. So until then, please take care.